I've had people reach out, these types of emails about janitorial services and different things like that that I'm just totally not in the market for. And they just have no idea. So I think, really what this industry is built on is true person-to-person relationships.
Welcome to Spill the Ink, a podcast by Reputation Inc., where we feature experts in growth and brand visibility for law firms and architecture, engineering, and construction firms. Now, let's get started with the show. Hi, everyone. I'm Michelle Calcote King. I'm your host, and I'm also the principal and president of Reputation Inc. We're a public relations and thought leadership marketing agency for B2B professional services firms, including architecture, engineering, and construction firms. To learn more, go to rep-inc, and that's inc with a K.com. So, while cold outreach has its place in the world, it isn't a scalable tactic to grow an architecture, engineering, and construction firm. Our guest today says these approaches create transactional relationships when authentic relationships really make up the foundation of success in the AEC industry. Brad Thurman is with us today to talk about the importance of going the extra mile to build and nurture real relationships, especially with your long term clients. Brad is the Chief Marketing Officer at Wallace Design Collective. He joined the design and engineering firm in 1987, originally serving as a professional engineer before moving full-time into the marketing department. And Brad's been around the industry for a while. He served as the Society for Marketing Professional Services National President from 2013 to 2014, and as the S&PS Foundation President from 2018 to 2020. And he was also elected to the National Academy of Construction in 2018. So, welcome to the show. I'm really excited to
Thank,
talk to you.
thank you so much. I'm honored to be here.
Well, tell us a little bit. Obviously, you've got a significant background in this industry. I'm excited to meet you. Hopefully, I can see you at maybe AEC Amplify or
Yep,
something like that.
absolutely.
Awesome. So, tell me a little bit about how did you go from being an engineer to marketing? Tell me about how that happened.
Well, that's an interesting story. So, actually, in when I was in grad school, I had a professional practice class, and our textbook for that class was Weld Cox's Marketing, Architecture, and Engineering Services. And so we kind of got a flavor of what marketing would be like. It was like half of a semester, 8 weeks, something like that. But I was just always interested in graphic arts and communicating and different things like that, even with the engineering degree. My degree is in architectural engineering, so that gives me a design background with that as well. So finally, I'd been doing it with the company for a while, just going to project interviews, helping run stuff. Had a lady that worked with me that had been leading a group, and so our marketing director resigned, and so said I would step in and start filling that role. And eventually, my partner said, "Yeah, I think you can do this full time." And I segued out of engineering and into marketing and business development. So
Oh, wow.
it's not your typical career path, but it's been fun for me.
I love it. When an opportunity presents itself, step up and
Right.
take it. So I tell my employees that all the time. Tell us a little bit about. I know Wallace Design Collective. I've obviously heard the name, but for
Mhm.
those who might not have, but might not be familiar with the firm, tell us a little bit about that.
Okay. Well, so we started off as a structural engineering firm, Wallace Engineering, which a lot of people still know us that way. But we have structural engineering, civil engineering, land surveying, landscape architecture. We do roof assessments and special inspections. We've grown. My employee number is 24. We're at over 300 now. And so we have 8 offices across the US. So um, we work nationally in all sorts of different business sectors. We do a lot of retail, a lot of healthcare, a lot of
That's great.
commercial. Those are the largest ones.
So you've got to see the growth of the firm through many stages. That's
Yep.
fantastic. So
Yep.
so we all experience cold outreach. I don't think any of us kind of go through a day, and I mean, especially in the AEC industry. And I don't know why it seems like AEC is kind of inundated with this, especially such a relationship industry. But tell me, give me your take on why in this industry cold outreach is such a waste of time.
You know. I know there are people that will swear by it, and they might say that it's not. But my biggest issue with it is it always puts the onus on me to respond back.
Hmm.
And whether it's email outreach, whether it's a cold call on a phone, it's just it really is to the point to where it's like I said, it's transactional. So it's they've put something out there. If I don't respond, there's no response back except maybe a couple of more emails until they finally give up. Um, so it's you have the opportunity to you don't really have the opportunity to learn what someone does and why they might need your services. I've had people reach out, these types of emails about janitorial services and different things like that that I'm just totally not in the market for, and they just have no idea. So I think, really what this industry is built on is true person-to-person relationships, company, business-to-business relationships that transcend just, an approach.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it's funny, it gives marketing a bad name for those people who are doing marketing right. It makes it seem like we're all out there just sort of blasting out
Right,
these emails and calls, and you're right. That is transactional. It's not an authentic relationship. And it's requiring you to to do the real lift when they should
right,
be doing that lift.
right.
Absolutely, I completely agree with that. I'm sure you get the follow-up email that is like, I'm waiting on
Yeah,
your reply, like,
yeah.
you
Maybe
know.
you aren't the person to talk to at Wallace.
Right. Yeah.
Or the infamous, I'd like to bump this up to the top of your inbox.
Yeah. The other thing, and I know you recently wrote an article on this topic, and I was reading your article, and one of the things you talked about was, buyers, after a while, especially when they're working for a firm that has the reputation like yours, they assume competence. If they've gotten to a stage that they're evaluating your firm, they're going to assume a certain level of competence. So tell me how authentic relationship building then plays into that if confidence is assumed.
So I say that a lot of times in presentations, and it makes engineers kind of take a deep breath. Um, it's assumed, but it's also job one, right? You've got to be
Hmm.
confident. You've got to do a good job. You've got to have a quality design. Um, and so when I say that's table stakes, everybody's assuming that you can do that. So really, um, what makes a difference in that relationship and how it builds over time is how you deliver those services, the type of relationships that you build, the value that you bring
Yeah.
to the relationship, going the extra mile when you need to, all those sort of you know, secondary things that people realize that they want in a relationship, but then, a lot of times they just say, well, we want whoever's cheapest. And that's the problem is you can't differentiate yourself. If you really can't find a way to express your value, it's going to come down to price,
Yeah.
and nobody really wants to compete on price. You want to be able to build that relationship and be able to get a project and the next one and the next one and the next one as it comes along.
I think that's so smart. We just had our agency retreat, and I honed that because there's some study out there about how clients will evaluate agencies, and it's not things like results, it's things like, do they respond quickly to your emails?
Hmm.
And it's surprising, and it goes back to that they assume competence.
Yeah,
Then they start then it becomes, oh, are they responding to my emails quickly? How do they make me feel? Is it something that do I just like them? So
yeah,
that's really what they start doing
yeah.
is yeah.
I I,
And
I heard of
yeah,
an
the
owner
the
one time.
technician is always thinking
Yeah,
about the work. Yeah.
I
Go
heard of an
ahead.
owner one time. He was with the university system, and whenever it got time for a project interview, he would go to the person at the front desk or the person that was like the gatekeeper for the office and ask, "Have these people been here before, and how do they treat you?" And
Wow.
so, because if they treated that person poorly, then he didn't believe what they were saying in their interviews.
Wow.
And so, it's top down.
Yeah.
You got to deal with everybody in a company, and you got to treat everybody well. And yeah, like I say, if you do that, I think you can really develop long-term relationships, that last 20, 30, 40 years. And you
Yeah.
can build relationships at different tiers in the company, right? So as the principals age out and they retire, then you've got the younger architects and engineers moving up, and you build that peer-to-peer relationship at those levels, and then it can just continue to generate the relationship through the years.
Yeah, well, I mean, that was going to be my next question is how does that look in practice? So what are some of the ways you help your engineers kind of implement this in practice? What are the ways to kind of create those long-term relationships?
So we really work with them to try and host client events or do different outreach to when they have major events in their lives, like maybe it's a job change or maybe it's a
Mm,
promotion or maybe it's a child or maybe it's, things like that. And we encourage people to let us know so we can help them put something together to give over to them to help celebrate that.
I
Doesn't
love
have to
that.
be a lot, right? It doesn't have to be a
Hmm.
big deal, but it's just the thought and the fact that you've sent something over there that you thought about them in that moment,
Yeah.
and it's not intended to be um, really calculated.
Hmm.
It really does come from a point to where we really want to help celebrate that person's success or that moment in their life.
Yeah.
And so if you do that, and when people need you to go the extra mile or work late, on a night or over the weekend, and when you do those things and you're always there for them, they respond in kind.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, and so how do you help them shift that mindset from transaction to relationship? Is there a way to kind of get them to understand the difference, or how do you kind of help shift that mindset?
So, it kind of comes down to the DNA of the company,
Hmm.
and the belief system of the individual. Um, we really one of our core values is responsiveness, and so we
Mm,
always want to make sure that we're responding. And it's if somebody's sending you an email, it doesn't sit too long before you get an answer back, even if the answer is, "I can't answer this right now, but I will answer it in 2 days"
yeah.
or whatever.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
and just always making sure you're keeping those lines of communication open. And then I think you just as if you start that relationship, and we've been fortunate to have some really good long-term ones, then they see it in action, right? They see
Hmm.
that the principals are friends and they do things together, and we encourage them to go to industry events,
Hmm.
to meet with other people. In our case, we're active in the AIA chapters in our different cities. It's a great chance to help sponsor different things, community events, and attending groundbreakings when we know when they're coming up, and topping out ceremonies, and just being a part of the whole process, and not just it's not just a product. It's not just we started here, we gave you signed drawings, we've done some site visits, and we're done. It's buying into the entire life of a project.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think clients they want to know that you're kind of fully bought into their industry, their business,
Right.
you're not just kind of doing your part of the project and on to the next thing, that you're in it. You're thinking about it. You're part of that. So, absolutely. So if firms want to be more intentional about nurturing, and you just gave me a couple of the ideas. So why is it important for them to kind of continue investing? Like, so if you've got a client in, they've done that, you've done that project, why continue investing in them after you've already kind of finished and done?
I think it's just trying to communicate to people that that's how you build careers.
Yeah.
That's how you build relationships. You want to move up in a company and have more responsibility, maybe move into a position of ownership or a leadership position. Those are the types of things that you need to do to be that person. Because you always need to, again, back to that technical side, you got to have the technical side, but to really help the firm grow and help everybody be successful, you've got to build these relationships with all of your clients, and it's the old all the old all boats rise with the tide, right?
Yeah.
So you're
Hmm.
trying you're trying to do it across the company. If you've got one side, one group of people that are really, really good at it and another group of people that aren't, you want to work with them a little bit and try and improve that.
Yeah.
And it takes it's small things. That's the thing, is it's not like it doesn't take a lot of effort to show somebody some kindness or send them an article that you read about them, and hey, I saw this, I thought you might be interested in a copy of it, or it's just little things like that that can make a huge difference.
Yeah, and I think because I remember being told the value of relationships when I was younger, and I think you don't. It's something that doesn't really hit home until you start seeing the benefits of it. If you can start implementing those small things when you're younger and actually see it and understand it, that can be incremental for you throughout your career. But you're
Yeah.
absolutely right. It's how companies are built.
And
Yeah,
it's not really anything that's taught in school, at least in
right.
in the architecture, engineering, and construction sphere. There's really not a lot of that marketing relationship type thing that's
Yeah,
built. You're kind of taught that if you build the better mousetrap, right, if you design the best looking building, then the world will be the path to your door.
yeah, yeah,
And sometimes it will, sometimes it won't. But a lot of times you have to go out, you have to get the next project,
yeah, yeah,
and you've got to be prepared to take those steps. And it's just, like I said, it's a learning curve, but they're smart people. They learn fast.
yeah. Well, they've got a good marketing person who understands that. So,
Mm,
yeah, that's why people underestimate the value of marketing people, and often we're the people behind the scenes, kind of making those connections and helping them
mhm.
understand that value. So, I'd love for you to kind of pull it all together for us, and if you were to have our give our listeners one final thought around this theme, what would it be?
I'd say look deep into the firm, do a little self-reflection on what the core values of the company are, and the type of entity you want to be, and the type of legacy you might want to have, and then use that to fuel concepts to build those relationships.
Mm,
Um, if you want to be, if you want to be really a friendly, family-oriented type firm, then you build those relationships along those lines. If you want to be a high design firm, you can still build those relationships.
yeah,
They're just different relationships. And so I think if you really are true to yourself, if you're not true to yourself and the culture of the firm, it'll tell on you real fast. People will think you're fake.
absolutely.
So figure out who you are, and then you can really start to drive those qualities into relationships and build those long-term commitments.
I love that. I'm all about authenticity. I think that
Yeah.
that's everything. Yeah, the
Yep.
more authentic you are, the more people kind of are drawn to you, or the people that you want to be that you want to be drawn to you. So,
Right.
fantastic advice. So, well, thank you so much. This is a
Yeah.
great reminder for all of us, and for especially I think younger architects, engineers, construction professionals coming up. It's foundational to great marketing in this industry. So we've been talking to Brad Thurman of Wallace Design Collective. So thank you for your time today.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to Spill the Ink, a podcast by Reputation Inc. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.